How the Baltimore Ravens used analytics in the fourth quarter versus the Chargers. This is Pro Football Talk, NFL NBC with Mike Florio. This is an interesting situation. I know what they're going to talk about here. So the Ravens and Chargers played last night, Monday Night Football, and there was a moment where the Ravens decided to go for two to go up 9. And so they were up 7. They could have kicked the extra point to go up 8. They chose to go for 2 to go up 9. They didn't get it. And there was some talk on Twitter and the announcers of what was that the right call. Anytime a decision goes against the team that makes the decision, it's always quick to be like, well, that's not right. Well, they shouldn't have done that. But I'm interested to hear what Florio has to say here because it was the right call. The opportunity to go up 9 is so much more valuable than the downside risk of going from being up 8 to being up 7. And you can easily say like, oh, it's 1 possession, 2 possession. It's not that simple, but it's just if you're weighing the reward and the downside risk, like it's pretty obvious to go for 2 there. And being up 2 scores in that situation of a game, it's so valuable. And I think more teams will start to do this. This is the right move. It can absolutely put you in a chokehold if you are the opposition. So let's go ahead and hear what they have to say, and we'll talk about it.
4th and 1 again. Derrick Henry easily converts, getting 2 yards. A few plays later, you've got the Lamar Jackson throw to Mark Andrews in the back of the end zone that they initially
were. Catch. Yeah, that was wild. They initially said it wasn't a catch. It was the most obvious catch of all time. He caught it like 3 feet. He caught it like 3 feet away from the boundary. I'm not even sure. I don't know if the judge thought that he caught it and like was going backwards and his back hit the chalk. I'm not sure what was going on there, but that was a horrible call.
Calling incomplete. And it's like, I know it's hard in real time with the naked eye to see these blurs and flashes, and you're trying not to get trampled, but come on. That wasn't even close.
Yeah, that was wrong.
Who the hell thinks that wasn't a catch? And it was. But this was a key moment, and it gets back to analytics. And this is one little facet. I know Chris Sims hates when a team's down 14, scores a touchdown, and goes for 2 to maybe make it a 6-point game. And that is a very specific analytics exercise aimed at.
That one's like the easiest thing in the world. Okay, so that one is the one that is like what this one we're talking about now. The down 14 go for 2 is the new, or it was like the new thing back in the day, and now it's kind of been accepted as the optimal practice. The simple way to do that one is you're down 14 late, so you're trying to come back. 2-point conversion, you could say, is a 50-50 chance. It's probably actually better now with how good offenses are. But let's just say it's 50-50 chance. So the line of thinking is if you're down 14, you score, okay? Then you go for 2. If you make it, then you have to kick the extra point to go up 15 or to go up 1, right? 15. You're down 14, so you go up 1. If you miss it, you get an opportunity to do it again. And if 50-50 works out, then you get the 2-point conversion. You get the 14 points anyways, 6 and 8. And so you have it's basically like a free roll. If you high roll and you get the 2-point conversion first, then all of a sudden now you're scoring a touchdown to win the game, not scoring a touchdown to tie. Again, the downside risk is if you don't get it, then percentages are on your side that you will get the 2-point conversion and you'll end up tying anyways. Like if you kick the 2 extra points, you never have a chance to win the game. Is that problem there, which is no doubt accepted.
At avoiding overtime, and it improves your chances of winning, yada, yada. This is, you're already up 1. I remember Pete Carroll did it, I think, against the Patriots a few years ago, or tried to do it, and I think it failed. But you're up 1, you get 6, you're up 7. Conventional wisdom, you take 1, go up 8, so the other team's got to score twice, touchdown and punch it in from the 2-yard line to tie the game.
Well, it's definitely not scoring twice. I mean, it for sure is not that.
But if you go for 2, up 7, then you're up 9,
yeah,
and it's a 2-score game. And I always think of games that way: 1 score, 2 score, 3 score.
Yep.
Dr. Seuss book. But John, Did it. 23-16, going for 2, going for the early dagger. Force him to score twice, and it didn't work. And I almost thought that would give the Chargers a lift because it's like, hey, we're only down 7 now. We don't have to go for 2. We just go down, kick the extra point, tie game. 1 drive, tie game.
That moment, I had to double take. I was like, wait, because I looked at the score and I'm like, why? Why are they going for 2? They're up 7. And I'm over here. I'm like, damn, am I doing my math wrong? And I was like, okay.
It's crazy to me. It's so nuts that announcers or analysts or whatever aren't thinking of this. I mean, I just don't know if it's because they're so used to, okay, make it 7. Okay, you don't go for 2 unless you have to. Okay, you don't go for on 4th down unless you have to. But like, these are super easy routine decisions. Like that one is not even that big of a deal. Like, that one should be as simple as it gets. And I know sometimes I like to use blackjack as a metaphor because blackjack is very like percentage based when you're playing it, and very just like you're doing things because of a percentage edge here or a couple percentage edge here. And sometimes they can be scary. Like, sometimes you don't want to do what the optimum thing is. But if you take the emotion out of it and you take the like, oh, this is risky, like that feeling, you take that out of it, you just do what is best for your team. If you are constantly making decisions that increase the win percentage, that makes the head coaching job so much easier. If you're throwing in variables like momentum and players and your emotion, your fear, and how people are going to judge you, and the media and all of that, like, that's where coaches start making really bad decisions. They start guessing. But John Harbaugh has been an analytical guy for a long time now. He was one of the first coaches to really embrace analytics, and I believe hired a pretty extensive analytical team to make these kind of decisions. So did not surprise me at all that he decided to go for it.
Up 7, go up 9. I mean, but I'm like, why? Like, I just didn't understand the reasoning behind it. And again, like you said, that's why I don't like going for it, because for one, it worked out for him in this situation. But players, they realize that, like, most of the time you're not fully paying attention to like how the game is going to end up, 10 minutes from now. Like, you're more focused in on, all right, the next time, if I'm on defense, the next time we get on defense, you understand once they go up 7, depending on what we do as an offense, like, we can't give up another touchdown. So you might talk like that, but you don't really pay attention to that until you're about to jog off the field or you're about to line up for the extra point, your field goal block, and you look at the sideline, you're like, oh, they're going for it. Then you start looking at the score and you're like, okay, why are they going for it? Sometimes, they're kicking a PAT takes you up 2. So, all right, they're going for it to try to go up 3. All right, that makes sense. But once you see like they're up 7 and they're just trying to basically put us away, there's an extra layer of like, all right, this is a must stop. This is a gotta have it moment in the game. We have to get this stop, or they realize that they're going to put the game away. And now essentially if that happens, there's still enough time to come back, but it creates this sense of urgency of getting.
But isn't it, he's in a way explaining why you should go for it in that situation, because he's saying, then you realize, like, damn, they can put the game away. You have a chance on the 3-yard line to put the game away, as he put it. And the risk, all you have to risk is to go from being up 8 to being up 7. Because let's say you don't make it, all right? Like, they didn't make it. Now you're up 7. You know that if the Chargers score, if you're Baltimore, you know that if the Chargers score, they're going to kick the extra point. Why would they go for 2, right? Like, they could if they were really being risky. But more than likely, they're going to kick the extra point and tie it at 7. They're not going to risk losing, right? Unless it's like 1 second on the clock or something like that. But so there really is no risk. That's the whole thing. On one hand, you can put the game away. On the other hand, nothing happens. Okay? So it's just one of those things where, like, he's explaining it, and really his answer is, I'm not used to seeing that happen. So it must be wrong. But if he just kind of listened to what he's saying, he would realize, like, damn, they do have an opportunity to put the game away on a coin toss, basically, and the risk is non-existent.
A stop. And once you get a stop, usually you'll see these defenses as they get that stop and they're jogging off the field. Now, remember, you've given up a touchdown, but you kind of forget about that moment. And you come to the sideline and you're starting to yell at the offense. You're yelling at everybody like, let's go. Like, this is our moment. And sometimes you see the team storms down the field, they score, and then some of these gutsy coaches say, all right, we're not only going to score, we're going to go for 2 now and go up a point or whatever happens. So it works for Baltimore, I think, in this moment, because I thought Harbaugh understood, hey, we're going to go for this. But the reason we're also going for this is I feel like we control the game right now. And I think he felt like the way their defense was playing.
Well, that's the thing, too. Like, it's very proactive and reactive. Like, let's say you're a coach, okay? Let's say you're John Harbaugh in this situation. And let's say right? You know that Jim Harbaugh, if he scores, he's going to go for 2. So you have a choice. What are you more confident in? Stopping a 2-point conversion or converting a 2-point conversion? I would guess a majority of coaches, especially a team like the Ravens, they are going to always prefer to be the one that has to try and convert the 2-point conversion. So even if you just boil it all the way down to this is going to happen, the 2-point conversions are going to happen, which side would you rather be on? Would you rather decide and try and get 3 yards, or would you try and rather try and stop them? I don't know a lot of coaches that are going to say, no, we'll play defense. Hell no, right? So, and that's not exactly what happened here because, I don't think the Chargers would have gone for 2. But even that is showing that Harbaugh, John, should have gone for it.
Playing, and I think he felt if we get the ball back on offense, we're going to put this game away because they can't stop us. And again, I think a lot of coaches think that, and you do it. If it works, you get a lot of credit for it. When it doesn't work, it was a bad decision, and you get all the blame for it.
Nah, see, that's what we got to quit doing. Go back to blackjack. Let's say you have a 14, and the dealer's showing a 5. You should stay, okay? 100% you should stay. And let's say the dealer flips it over and he flips over, or he hits and he gets a 6. And now he's got 21 and you would have had 20. I can't remember what my math was there. No, he would, yeah. He would have 21, you'd have 20. The worst way to look at that situation is, damn, I shouldn't have stayed. I should have hit. I knew I should have hit. If I would have hit, I would have won. That's the worst way to look at it. If you let results dictate what is a good decision and what is a bad decision, that's a disaster. And trust me, I have been on plenty of blackjack tables where I've had that exact situation where I'm sitting on 15 and the dealer's sitting on 14 and the dealer ends up, hitting into a 20 or something. And all I can say is, well, it didn't work out that time. It is what it is. But I know I made the right decision. You can't say like, okay, now I'm going to start hitting on that situation. I'm going to change my line of thinking because of the results. That is a horrible way to look at this. That's a horrible way to look at the 2-point conversion thing and all of that. And that's an old school way of thinking. And you cannot let results dictate what is a good and bad decision.
And before I move on to what happened next, and I don't want to be overly critical of Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. I think they're great at what they do. I love listening to them on Monday nights. It becomes just part of the comfort. Like,
I think
listening
they're
to Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit on Thursday night. It's part of the routine. Listening to Joe and Troy after a long day on Monday. I'm comforted by the sound of their voices. And you've called enough games now for Westwood One that you understand there's a lot going on. You're in the middle of a hurricane of information and people talking to you and try to process in real time in a stadium that is loud and active and things are going on and you're seeing this. And I don't envy the position, but when something like that's happening, we need an explanation for the average fan. Like, this is unconventional. This is weird. Here's why they're doing it. Hell, we still don't get from most broadcast teams, college and pro level, a thorough explanation of why a team down 14 that scores a touchdown goes for 2. And these are finer points of analytics that we know about now. And I think it just, because you're going to have a lot of confused people. Most of the millions who were watching the game last night aren't aware of this idea. Hey, we're going up 2 scores potentially. They're just wondering, what is the kicker injured? Am I not aware the kicker's injured? Why are they going for 2 here?
I mean, can they not add? Like, I know it's unconventional, but damn. I mean, can they not do addition? This isn't even, like, guys, I've got 5 books on game theory in the library, okay? I guarantee you this wouldn't be covered. This is like, I mean, this is quite literally 7 plus 2. Like, this is as easy math as it gets. Football is a really easy game mathematically. You know, you only have certain things that can happen. You only have a safety, you have a touchdown, you have the extra point, you have the dueling inversion. Super easy. They have a possession, you have a possession. Like, the numbers are not hard. So, I mean, I do think Joe or Troy should at least be like, hey, you know, I know they're going for 2 here. Here's why. I mean, it takes like literally 2 seconds to explain it. The problem is that even with explaining it, you will have people like these 2 hombres who will still say, well, they shouldn't have gone for it. Even with the explainer, even with the simple math, even with the 2 plus 7, they're still going to say, well, you know, still got to kick the extra point.
This is where you go for 1. So you need to, and again, look, they did great. I don't want to be critical, but it was one of those, it contributes to, wait a minute, what am I, were they down a point?
Yeah.
Like, you need to have, and that's the value of good broadcasting, somebody plants a flag and makes clear you understand what's going on in the game. They're guiding you through the game. Hey, folks, Baltimore's doing something unconventional here. We'll explain on the other side why they did it, whatever the case may be. But that added to my confusion. Like, yeah, am I missing? Like, wait, they're going for 2. And then, oh, yeah, that's the old go up by 9 trick. And again, like I said, a lot's happening. And part of that confusion can maybe help you convert it. If you've got your offense planned for a moment like that and the defense isn't, maybe you steal an easy 2.
And I think that's so interesting because so much of this happens, and you know, we keep calling it analytics, but like you say, it's strategy, it's planning. A lot of times as players, you're not thinking about that. And when we think about these
well, yeah, and I mean that's another part of it too. Like, that's a little bit more of like the human element. But if you're John Harbaugh, you might be thinking like the defense is not planning on being back on the field. You know, so let's put them back on the field and let's see what they do. I mean, yeah, now Jim Harbaugh is one hell of a coach, and he may have seen this coming, but that is absolutely part of this, where, you know, the defense gives up the touchdown, whatever. They're going to the sideline. They're talking to their coaches. They're expecting the special teams to come out. All of a sudden, no defense, get back on the field. Wait, what? Why? And then next thing you know, they're out there. Like, it happens in a lightning. It happens in 20 seconds. So that might be part of it as well. I doubt it. But now you could also question the next layer. That is the play call. You know, the Ravens should never get stopped on a 4th and 1 or a, you know, 2-point conversion or 3rd and 2 or anything like that. When you have Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, like, you would think some kind of read option, get Lamar moving, just have like an option, like an easy read option into a levels type situation. Not even a levels, but just like a read option into like a 1 receiver read, or Lamar takes off. But you just do that, and it seems like that would never get stopped.
Broadcast, a lot of them are former players. It's guys that have played the game. And some of the more obvious things, like I talked about, if you're going to go up, you know, 3 points, then you go for 2. If you're going to only be up, you know, 6 points or 5 points, then 5 points, you go for 2 to try to go up 7, to understand. Now, there's a lot of guys, I think, when you get in a game and you look, you're like, okay, that makes sense. I'll explain that. But I think because of the way the game is now, we've seen coaches that are just like, I'm going to go for 2 in a moment. And I think as players, sometimes we're like, I don't understand that. We were all together in Detroit for the playoff game, and you just spoke about it. They had a chance, 14-point game, and they're going for two, and almost everybody, Coach Dungy, Rodney, me, Sims, we're all like, this makes no sense. And all of the people that might not have played the game or have studied just the end, they were like, no, well, wait, there's a scenario, and they start breaking it down to us because from a playing standpoint, it's like, okay, we're down 2 scores. We'll get it to 7. We'll score again, and then we'll tie the ball game up if we kick the extra point, or we'll decide to go for 2. That's a decision on the game, what's happening, all of those things. Some of this other stuff, to me, it's not talked about when we're in meetings. It's like the analytics, that part of it, it's not discussed as much from.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the big shift in football over the last decade or so, is that the coaches, the idea that, I mean, you can already tell. I talk about these guys all the time, like the Mike McCarthy's and the Antonio Pierces and people like that, who they're the old school football mentality, and they just aren't thinking about 4th downs, timeouts, 2-point conversions. They're not thinking about this kind of stuff, and this isn't hard. Like these are not difficult. The down 14, the go from 7 to 9, those are really, really easy, right? But they just aren't thinking like that. They're thinking, take the points, punt, pin them back, whatever. And the game is just moving in such a fast direction and it's so optimized that if you have a coach that is not taking those small incremental advantages, whether it's 2% here, 3% there, 1% there, 10% here, if you're not doing that, you are not going to win long term. You have to have a coach who is willing and understanding to make those baby increases throughout the game. If you take 2% here, 1% here, 1.7% here, 2% here, 2.8% there, over the 4 quarters, you have made decisions to help your team, increase their win percentage by 10%, 15%. That is coaching. That is it. It's no longer like what Mike McCarthy does, where he just kind of sits on the sideline and watches the game. That is not it. It is a chess match, and we're seeing good franchises and good coaches really understand that. And then it comes down to the execution and the players and whatnot. But it's crazy that we're in 2024. We're almost done with this season, and we still have some relics hanging on. And candidly, this is why I really don't like CBS's broadcast. And I know this game wasn't on CBS. Like CBS's pregame / postgame it's like Bill Cowher and Phil Simms, and it's like it's really old, like as far as like the football mind kind of thing. And there's really no one thinking about the new game. Like when you're hearing Bill Cowher and Phil Simms and people like that talk about the game, and this is over the last couple of years. Obviously, I watch a lot of stuff, a lot of different pre-games now, but just I know at one point that CBS broadcast got so old that they were, and I'm talking about, over, like I said, over the last like 5 years or so. Not a lot of the new pieces and all the people that are adding and taking off, but they were basically like almost like listening to like my grandparents or something talk about the game, where they just had no clue about a lot of the new wrinkles and a lot of the new stuff going on. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it is up to the broadcast to make sure that there's people there who can talk about this. And it's not just relics of the past talking about, like the old school style of football.
From a player standpoint of understanding, it's more seen as the coaching staff or whoever else is hired in the analytics department, to them having an understanding of how they want to call the game or do different things. But the actual playing of the plays that's going to be ran doesn't change much. If they're going to go for 2, it doesn't matter if they're going for 2 in the 4th quarter, in the 2nd quarter, it's a 2-point play. We studied the 2-point plays. That's it. So I think some of that stuff, I agree with you. It's probably going to have to come from outside of the booth, of guys who are part of the production team or understanding that side of it. We have so many great researchers and people like that who understand, and they study that more, I think, than the actual former players or even the play-by-play guys.
And the fact that the players are largely in the dark raises a different issue from my standpoint. Because if I'm a coach, and football players everywhere should be glad I'm not, but if I'm a coach, I want my guys to understand why we're doing what we're doing, because I think if there's any part of your brain that's spinning with what the are we doing here? You don't want that. You want your players to understand and buy in and realize the strategy. Hey guys, here's why we're doing what we're doing. Like if you come, like I feel like if you get your guys on board with it and they like,
I would think those conversations are happening. Now there's some people, again, like there's some people who are going to hear the explanation and be like, what the hell are you talking about? You know, like, and that's just going to be it. But I would assume at some point John Harbaugh is telling his team like, hey, if we're down in this situation, we're going to go for 2. If we're down this situation, we're going to, go for 2 twice, like whatever.
this is what we're doing. We're going to go for 2 and we're up 1 in the fourth quarter, because then we're going to be up 9, and that's pretty much night at that point. And I would want my players to understand that. I wouldn't want any of them to be thinking, what the hell are we doing here? Why are we going for it here? Let's get everyone on board. And there's only so many hours in the day and only so many days in the week to get your players ready for a game. But I'd want my guys to get excited. I remember the limited time I played football, if there was something different that was happening and the coach told us that it was coming, we'd be excited about it and look forward to it.
And the hard thing to manage that as a coach is, okay, who are the guys that I'm going to need to understand this to then relay it to the rest of the team? Because some of these things that you want to do, sometimes you have a good amount of guys on the team who it's like, huh? What? Coach, no. I'm not like, you know what? I go play ball. Like I want to run.
Yeah, I don't think a majority of players care about why a play or decision's happening. And honestly, you shouldn't. See, I disagree with Floria. You don't want your players wondering why you're making decisions. Like their job is to execute whatever's happening. You don't want players that are like, well, coach, I really need to understand the reasoning behind this before I can fully get motivated to execute. Like, that seems like a problem. But I mean, we've gone on 27 minutes on this. I guarantee you there are people in the comments that are going to say, I would have kicked it, or it's not right to go for it. I guarantee you, 100%. I promise you there's still people who are hanging on to, oh, you're down 14, kick the extra point both times. Guarantee it. So even with the explainer, some people, it's just one of those things where it seems unconventional, it seems risky, but in reality it's not.
So you have to try to manage, and I'm sure within those situations, you think about the quarterback position, you think about the center position, some of the top communicators and leaders on the team, they're usually understanding that more. You look on the defensive side, the middle linebacker, the safeties, some of those guys. Then there's a good amount of guys that sometimes you lose them before you get them when you try to go deep into, okay, 9-point game. Okay, we're down 14. Let's go for 2. Now, next thing you know, you end up explaining like 8 to 10 different situations, and maybe 3 of them come up all year. Yeah. So you have to try to balance, all right, how much time am I going to put into something that's not going to come up that much? And how much am I going to confuse my guys when I try to implement too many different things?
Hi, it's Mike Floria.
There you go. Yeah, interesting stuff. Interesting, great game, interesting spot, and Harbaugh got it right. And it's always funny to see people very confused whenever something like this happens. So let me know in the comments below what you think. Would you have kicked the extra point, or would you have gone for it? Do you think all this is just, hey, let's get back to the old school, kick extra points, punt on 4th and 1, 4th and inches, punt, take the points, whatever? Let me know. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video.